Rise and shout, Cougar fans. The time is here. March Madness has come, and the BYU Cougars are getting ready for their showdown on Thursday with the Duquesne Dukes. My name's Will.
And my name's Rhett. We're here with BYU-Idaho Scroll to tell you everything you need to know heading into BYU's matchup against number 11 Duquesne on Thursday morning at 10:40.
The game's going to be broadcast live on True TV, and we got everything you need to know. The tail of the tape here. The BYU Cougars got a 6th seed entering this tournament, and they are coming in with a 23-10 record. They finished in 5th place in the Big 12 this season, and they picked up 6 quad 1 wins. They had 6 quality wins to their resume, which is a big benefit of entering the Big 12, so they are already reaping the benefits from that. Looking at some notable results for the Cougars, BYU picked up wins over Baylor, Kansas, and Iowa State, which are all 3 good quality wins for them. And then on the flip side, they lost to Iowa State in Ames, but they did blow a 15-point lead at one point in that game, and they lost to Houston at home by 7 points. So even in those losses, they hung tight with good quality teams.
Top teams.
And on the flip side, Duquesne. Duquesne enters with an 11 seed in this tournament, and this is their first tournament since 1977. They won the Atlantic 10 Conference Tournament, which got them this automatic bid in the tournament, and they finished the year with a 24-11 record, finishing in 6th place in the Atlantic 10. They picked up 2 quad 1 wins, so 2 quality wins this season, and some notable results for them was a victory over the Dayton Flyers in the quarterfinals of the Atlantic Tournament. And then on the flip side, they did lose twice to Dayton in the regular season. They also beat the VCU Rams in the finals of the Atlantic 10 tournament, holding VCU to just 51 points in that game. And then they also lost by 10 points to Nebraska at the start of the year, and Nebraska enters the tournament this year as a 9 seed. Talking a little bit more about the Dukes, they're coming into this game on an 8-game winning streak. Taking and diving a little bit into that, just one of those wins came against a top 4 opponent from the Atlantic 10. So 7 of those games did come from lower opponents in the league, but nonetheless, it is still an 8-game winning streak. They're playing good basketball right now at the right time of year. And then looking further, they have a 1-5 record this year against those top 4 teams in the Atlantic 10. So that even dives a little further into they did struggle against the top teams in the Atlantic 10 this year. And then they picked up 2 victories over NCAA tournament teams. One of those being St. Peter's, who enters with a 15 seed, and one being their win over Dayton in the Atlantic 10 quarterfinals. And that's a little bit about their team, but looking specifically about the style of play, Rhett's got some information for you about the Duquesne Dukes.
Yeah, Will, their defense and offense both. Let's start on the defensive side. Their defense is prolific. They average about 8 steals a game. It's rather impressive. They play a pressure style of on-ball defense. It's man-to-man. Everyone has an assignment, and they do their assignments well. The problem with that type of defense is if the on-ball defender fails to step up, fails to guard their man, that leads to them getting blown by, forces help from the other 4 players, and leaves open BYU shooters. That is what BYU lives for, is an open shot. That's what they're looking for. On the offensive side, the Dukes average about 67 points a game. Not the most prolific team, but they do enough to win games. They're looking to grind the game out. They're looking for the best shot that they can get, whether that's inside at the basket or it's kicking it out to an open shooter. They have shooters. They have finishers around the rim. They have what it takes to win a game.
Yeah, and speaking about that offense, you mentioned the drive and kick style. A lot of that driving is led by their dynamic backcourt of Day-Day Grant and Jimmy Clark III. Rhett, tell us a little bit about Day-Day Grant and Jimmy Clark.
Yeah, Day-Day and Jimmy, they're solid. They're a solid backcourt. Definitely a formidable opponent for the Cougs. Day-Day, really, he averages 16.7 a game. That is an impressive number considering the amount that the team scores as a whole. He shoots free throws at a very high rate, and him and Jimmy both shoot about 33% from the three-point range. For Jimmy, he averages about 15 points a game, and the key thing for him is that he's a playmaker. He averages almost 4 assists a game, which is really high-level stuff.
Yeah, so they have that dynamic backcourt, and that's Duquesne. But let's look at BYU. 3 keys to victory here for BYU. And the first one is get to 75 points. BYU averages over 81 points per game, But if you get to 71 points for the Cougars, they are 19-2 this season. So for the Cougars, get that offense rolling. You get to 75 and you increase your chances of victory. Further looking at it, it's get Jackson Robinson to 15 points. When Jackson scores 15 points for the Cougars, they are 12-3 this season. Jackson getting going opens up a lot for the other Cougars offense. So if you can get Jackson his buckets, there's going to be other chances around, and it helps the Cougars' chances of victory. And then the final thing is connect from three-point range. The story with BYU this season is live and die by the three. When they're hitting their shots, they win. When they're not hitting their shots, they have to fight uphill to get victories. The Cougars are shooting 34.8% from three this season. But when you cut that number down, if BYU makes 33% of their threes this season, they are 20-2. Make 1 out of every 3 3-point chance, and you have a 20-2 record this season. That's it for the Cougars. Find a way to make 1 out of every 3 3-point shots, and you have a good chance at victory. And that's going to be the key. You mentioned the chances that Duquesne leaves some open guys as they rotate.
Backside.
And BYU needs to take advantage of that. They need to knock down those open threes, and their chance of winning goes up. But with that, that's it. There's the keys to victory for BYU, and there's a little bit about Duquesne. And now, Cougar fans, it's time. Get ready. Turn into your TVs on Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Check out True TV, where the Cougars will be taking on the Duquesne Dukes. And after the game, check out BYU-Idaho Scroll on Instagram and BYU-IdahoScroll.org for all your information about the BYU Cougars. Rise and shout, Cougar fans.